How you doing, everybody? Welcome into Region Football Weekly. Chris Ramirez and Mike DeWan with you live from the Centier Bank Studios. We've got Z Squared, Zach Zanelli, sitting across from us here today, and he is handling all the production efforts in the Week 6 edition. Mike, you heard me right. Week 6, when we get done with this week, 2/3 of the regular season already will be in the history books.
Stop it. It is crazy. As you mentioned before we got on, it flies by quick. It's kind of unlike any other season we really have here in the athletic high school season, and it's been a fun one so far, but it's been quick to say the least. Yeah,
let's talk a little bit about what we have coming up this weekend, Mike. Friday night we've got a pair of games, Wheeler at Westside, and then we've got the Crown Point at Valpo game. Couple of state-ranked teams going at it there. Hopefully it'll be a good one. Hopefully they'll both be good ones. But we're going to do something a little different. In addition to the Tech Tailgate Show, the Host Connections halftime report, and the Region Football wrap-up, you're going to be hanging out in the studio having some fun tomorrow, doing something a little different. The RSN Zone makes its debut tomorrow. Tell the audience about that.
It's going to be a super fun one. It's going to be myself and the great Michael Bradner. It's going to be kind of a show going on throughout the entire course of, it's like your typical game stream. It's going to start probably around 6:15, and we're going to kind of wrap it up probably when games kind of end, when we kind of see games end. I want to say if it's something to kind of give it similarities to, I'd like to say it's kind of NFL Red Zone-like. I'd like to say hopefully maybe we're not as great as Scott Hansen and what they do over there at Red Zone, but they do a great job over there. We're going to try and emulate that. So it's going to be myself, Michael Bradner, going to kind of recap all the games going on before they get going, and as the games kind of go on, we're going to kind of watch it with you guys as well, just kind of give updates and talk shop basically throughout the whole night, and then kind of wrap it up there with me and Michael Bradner. But it's going to be a fun one. RSN Zone. First week we're doing it. We're going to see how it goes. But yeah, to kind of lay it out for you guys, just kind of a long stream, kind of watching all the games together, keeping updated, real-time updates. Also, hopefully going to run some highlights as well. So it's going to be fun tomorrow. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Tune in for that. Again, Game Night in the Region, week number 6, all kicks off tomorrow with the Tech Tailgate Show, and then we will be on all night long in one form or another. A couple other things to tell you about here. Beating the Brickies is still rolling. Mike, we've got a new one coming out Saturday.
Yeah.
We've got, how many we got up now? We've got the introduction. We've got the LC story, 57-0. We've got, what did we do? Which one did we post after that?
We had
The Terrific Panthers, a bone to be chewed. Sorry, my bad. I should have known that.
Right.
Written by Brian Waddle, a really good story about the 97 Panthers and their regional championship game with the Hobart Brickies. And then this Saturday, we're releasing another Brian Waddle piece here. Are we doing the Chesterton one this week? So it'll be 71 and done. The Trojan triumph that halted Hobart's home streak is what we're calling it. And Mike, this is kind of cool. I got a chance to read the story, and it just blows my mind. 71 games in a row Hobart won at their old fabled stadium, Bricky Bowl, and they got beat by a team that wasn't really that good.
No. I mean, I was reading that as well, and you kind of you're reading the story, and you look at kind of the tail of the tape, and Hobart, again, a great team that year, a great team throughout that entire decade and beyond, and Chesterton still a competitive team, of course, but you look at the tail of the tape and it goes, okay, chalk this one up. It's going to be another win there for number 72 right there for the Brickies at home. And Chesterton had something to say about it, which is why we're kind of doing this series. You're going to highlight those moments. And obviously this was a crazy streak, which kind of got this whole story started in the first place. But to see Chesterton obviously walk in there, that's not easy to do.
Yeah, two teams on the opposite sides of the Duneland Conference in those days.
Right.
Hobart typically, rolling through the conference, and Chesterton at that time, really one of their low points in program history, record-wise, and it really kind of even, tailed off after that for a while. But they've got that one to remember, and remember it they do. I mean, those guys from that team, what a great memory to have. They don't have much to, look back on in their high school career because it wasn't, successful in terms of wins or losses. It was the opposite of that. But they got that one great moment. And again, that's the reason a series like this exists, is that, when you do something like that, that's the game you remember 30, 40, 50 years later. These aren't, they don't remember all the games. And the games they lost, they want to forget those games. But you beat Hobart and ended a 71. It's the most incredible streak, I think, of all the Hobart streaks. And of any streak any region team has had in any sport at any time, 71 straight winning football games on their home field. It's almost 11 years worth of football games.
It's crazy. And you mentioned, you hit it right on the nail, Chesterton. It was not maybe the best period for that program in terms of wins and losses, but that win trumps every other loss they suffered throughout that time period. Again, it's a memory that these guys hold close, and it's something they obviously are still able to recollect to this day, which is, again, I'm reading that story. They would remember everything just about that day, every play. It was truly an awesome read, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. But, yeah, another great pice of the series we're doing over here.
Yep, and we got a few more coming out. It's basically kind of, bricky busters is how I was describing it to somebody the other night, that, a lot of these were, Hobart had all kinds of different streaks. LC stopped their regular season winning streak. Munster stopped their 7-year regional championship streak. We talked about Chesterton. There were others in there. Maryville, the story, you're right, and Maryville stopped their Doolin streak. So find all of these on the web. We love to recreate the past and as much as we can. So we got that coming out. We got some other things we've got planned for later in the year as well. But all of that stuff can be found on regionsports.com. So when you're not with us watching a game or a show, do us a favor, give us a click. The more clicks we get, maybe the longer we'll be able to stay in business. Who knows? But we'd appreciate that. Again, it's the Beating the Brickies series. Myself, Mike Dewan, and Brian Waddle are doing the writing, and there's a handful more to come. So next one out Saturday morning, 9 o'clock on regionsports.com. All right, Mike, enough of that for now. Enough promoting and stuff here. Let's get right to it. Let's take a look back here at Week 5 before we look ahead to Week 6. Wow, what an incredible week of football we had. I mean, the number of games that went down to the wire. Last-second victories. We're going to start with Griffith and River Forest in the GSSC. What a game it was. Griffith manages to eke it out at the end in a back-and-forth affair, 34-31 the final. By far the best game anyone's given Griffith this year, and other than the Wheeler game to River Forest, best game anybody's ever played against them this year.
Yeah, that was definitely a pinnacle GSSC game there. Again, a game we had looked out for as a top 10 game, and both teams are still going to be in our top 10, but Griffith obviously is going into this game undefeated, a team that was basically dominated everybody they saw up until this point. And River Forest is a very solid team in that conference, don't get me wrong, but Griffith, the way they were playing, not many people thought they'd come down to the wire, and this was a game that the Ingots they really controlled throughout the entirety of the game. They were up with a minute 30 left, and their sophomore quarterback, Griffith, Brian Bouillon, completed a 40-yard touchdown to Jalen Wilson for what eventually was the decider. I mean, that takes a lot of poise, especially from a sophomore quarterback. To my knowledge, it was his first year really under center on Friday Night Lights, and to do that, complete a big pass there, and obviously orchestrate a drive, that's not easy to do, and this River Forest defense is also for real, so that's a big test. But obviously a high-scoring game over there at the Swamp, as you mentioned. Aiden Silver, River Forest played his tail off, 250-plus yards of offense, 3 touchdowns, just not enough for this Griffith team that they're finding ways to win. This is a game that we've seen them win. We've seen them win the games that, by running clock by 35, 40 points. But to win a game by 3 to come back in the final minute, kudos to Phil Mason and his guys over there. Yeah,
what a season it's been for the Griffith Panthers so far, and all around the GSSC, Mike. It's fun football this year, and it's been getting better and better the last few years. And this year, as we're going to get into the top 10, bunch of teams in the GSSC battling, whether to be in the top 10 or just on the outside. But a team that used to be in that conference that has now moved on to the NCC, I'm talking about the Hanover Central Wildcats. They got a 34-20 victory last week, and they remain undefeated.
They find ways to do it. They are a team that is competitive as they can be in the NCC. It's fun to watch and see what they do. I mean, Brian Parker and his guys, they just find ways. They got a guy back there in the backfield, Caden Verrett, 200-plus yards of total offense, 4 touchdowns on the game, excuse me. He is an absolute wrecking ball for that team. And in the NCC, you need to run the football, and he's done just that. Tommy Bonner, a great quarterback. That game, as well as 150-plus yards of total offense. And Dylan Bowen, the brother of Drake Bowen, 21 tackles on the night. A big win for Hanover Central, a game that we probably thought they could control maybe a little bit more, but nonetheless, a 14-point win, they will gladly take it, going down to KV, playing a good team down there.
Yeah, I was down on the farm last week, and, Kirk Kennedy's got his bunch playing well, and I don't know if the gap is starting to close between Hanover and the other schools or exactly what it is, but it's nice to see these games being a little bit more competitive. I know if you're Hanover, you like those 62-0 wins anytime you can get them, but as far as a fan goes, it's not a lot of fun to follow. So as the NCC teams start to get maybe a little bit it'll close that gap a little bit more on a week-to-week basis. Maybe those games will start to become a little bit more competitive. Speaking of competitive, Mike, let's move over to the Duneland. There were a couple of very competitive games on the Region Sports Network last week. One of them, the Michigan City Wolves coming to the Purple Palace along I-65, 14-12, a 2-point game in this one. Michigan City having a tough time at 1-4, but they're in all these ball games.
Yeah, they just got to find ways to win them. You got to play a good 4 quarters of football. And for Michigan, I mean, this was a great game. I was fortunate enough to be at, but Maryville got off to a 14-0 lead with kind of their rushing game and their defense. The football they're accustomed to playing, and then Michigan City kind of battled back. They started doing some stuff on the ground, kind of start to get through the trenches, but they also set up short fields at the hands of some Maryville turnovers, a couple fumbles, and Maryville a little bit careless with the football. Michigan City clawed their way back, but just couldn't get to where they needed to be. Michigan City, I believe this is their 3rd loss out of 4 so far this season in single digits. Their other loss was a pretty close game to Warsaw that they just squandered some red zone opportunities. So this team is very talented, Michigan City is. They just cannot put it together for 4 quarters. It's still a long season. Maybe the Duneland's out of reach, but you have to tie that up come postseason play. Now for Maryville, we were very accustomed to what they do in the first half. Again, running the football, playing good defense, and they got a lot of guys over there on that defensive side that I was fortunate enough to watch, and for the first time this year, and impressed me a lot. But you have to play, again, the offense. They could run the football, but the quarterback position, they're still trying to figure it out, getting the ball to their receivers in space. It was pretty one-dimensional, I saw so far from Maryville that Friday. And again, it's a long season. They're still looking to get ready, and they got some quality opponents coming up, I'd like to say, but they got to get ready. I mean, they're going to be a favorite in their sectional, but they're going to have to probably tie down offensively. The defense is very solid. Both teams still some work to do, and Maryville just scrapes out of this one.
All right, we'll stay in the Duneland, Mike, and we go from a 2-point game to a 1-point game. This was the Valpo-Chesterton game, and the Trojans playing without Brady McCormick. So you got to wonder going in, are they going to even be able to make a game out of it? Valpo had to come from behind in this one and win it in the end. That's how good Chesterton played.
That was something else. Obviously, to not have your starting quarterback, who Brady McCormick's their quarterback, obviously tore his ACL, I'd like to say 2 weeks ago. So I've heard surgery went well, so thank goodness for that. But it's not an easy task, to say the least, to trot out your team against a Valparaiso squad that is, again, you don't have your leader in the backfield. You don't have your quarterback, who McCormick ran for a lot of yards through his time playing with Chesterton. And obviously, you got to work building chemistry with a new guy. They're calling your plays, and that's not easy to do. So I got to give kudos to Chesterton for hanging in there. More specifically, Andrew Govia, who had 250-plus yards on the ground against a Valparaiso defense that's young but has been playing good football as of late. They have not really given up that many yards to a rusher since that Week 1 against Penn. But I got to give, again, kudos to Govia, who also had 2 scores. But Valparaiso, this was a team that battled. They just find ways to win. They forced turnovers defensively. Brennan Gagan out of Valparaiso, he had 18 tackles and an interception. I want to say Valparaiso, that defense, they bent, but they did not break. They forced 3 turnovers as well, and it kept them in this game. And obviously, it took a 5th frame. Overtime came around, and they had quite the trick play to win it. We call it Philly. What we saw at the Super Bowl there, the Eagles versus the Patriots. Nick Foles catching that pass late in the first half. I mean, that is just got to give so much respect over there to Bill. That's something you have to work in on the Thursday practices. You're working on your 2-point conversions. You're working on, hey, we need to play. We need a couple yards, and they ran it right there. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that it's a long play for the lineman. You got to block. You got to, 2 handoffs and a throw from somebody else. And everyone's got to have the right play, basically. You have quarterback, you got to catch a snap, get to your spot after you pitch it, and then you got to make a good throw if you're making the throw there, which I believe it was McKenzie, Austin McKenzie, I believe was his name, that made the throw to Kellen Hosick for the game-winning 2-point catch. Who played Nick Foles in that play, but that takes a lot to call that play, obviously, for the win. But Valparaiso, they find ways to win. Chesterton, a valiant effort, but just not enough.
All right, we're going to go to one more overtime game. We had it here on the Region Sports Network. This one at the Brickyard, Hobart 27, Andrean 24. What a great game this was.
A lot of implications in the conference for this game, and it was a back-and-forth game, to say the least. It is really typical of what we see between these two teams. They always play each other great, but more so it goes down to the wire. It takes 4 quarters and sometimes even a 5th, like it did here at the Brickyard last Friday. Hobart had a 14-0 lead, and 21 unanswered from Andrea until Max Pickett scored with about 40 seconds left to set up that 5th frame of overtime. Brady Ellis of Andrane played pretty well, but I think kind of the one thing going out of this game, 3 interceptions, not what he'd like to see, but still 250 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. Also completed just about half of his passes. That defensive Andrane played pretty solid. Ethan ran 12 tackles, 2 sacks, but they only had 22 yards rushing, and that's kudos to this Hobart defense. But this was an Andrane team that was running the ball a little bit better. Obviously, it's kind of been hills and valleys with the rushing attack as of late, but this was a game that the Hobart defense, much kudos to them to containing a Andrane rushing attack that built up confidence over these past few games. 22 yards rushing, you cannot have that against a team that is dimensional as Hobart, that is playing some very good football as of late. Alex Tatum, their sophomore quarterback's only getting better, 16 of 20 for 219 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Having Willie Shearer back, who plays 2 ways, that's big to have. He did a little bit in the passing game. I saw he was our play of the game on a big pass catch that kind of set them up, I think, later in the game. But he also had the game-winning touchdown, had over 150-plus yards of offense, had the game-winning touchdown in overtime. To get a player like that back on both offensive and defensive backfields, that's been the X factor for Hobart so far. Now they sit alone with Hanover Central at the top of the NCC.
All right, Mike, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, it's the Enigenberg Home Improvement Top 10 for week number 6. A little bit later on, we're going to preview a handful of games for you, so stick around, everybody. This is Region Football Weekly on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
When life keeps you busy and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strachan Van Til To Go. Our to-go service is easy to use. Register using your rewards account information, fill your virtual cart, and choose delivery or pickup. Once your order is in, our own Strachan Van Til team preps your order with care. With our to-go service, you can earn reward points and save time and money with our online coupons and weekly ad prices. Life made simple, shopping made easy. For more information or to sign up, visit shop.strachanvantil.com.
Hi, I'm Crowd Company's Lantern Man. For years, I've helped your family and friends save on their car insurance. And now I've returned to rescue you from high prices. Whether you have a perfect driving record or a not-so-perfect record. Follow me to the Crowd Agency for immediate and affordable coverage. I'm your insurance superhero. Crowd Company's insurance professionals. Highland, Merrillville, and Michigan City.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
Old Man Winter is just around the corner, and that means temperatures will soon begin to drop. And a region winter is not the time to be left out in the cold. The professionals at Economy Electric Heating and Cooling can tune up that old furnace or install a new unit that can last for years. Your family deserves to stay comfortable this winter, and with 24/7 emergency service, comfort is just a phone call away. Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, 219-923-4441. Or for more info, the website is forajobdoneright.com.
Tech Checking Plus from Tech Credit Union offers everything you'd expect from a checking account. Plus, you'll earn one of their best dividend rates for maintaining a higher account balance. Currently, 4.85% annual percentage yield. No need to choose between easy access to funds or earning a better dividend. Tech Checking Plus gives you both. Visit techcu.org, contact any branch, or call 800-276-8324 to learn more. Tech Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. Rates may change without notice.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Centier Bank Studios with Mike DeWan and Zach Zanelli. I am Chris Ramirez. Thank you for joining us here. The 6th edition in 2024 of Region Football Weekly. 5 weeks in the books and all the way up to 15, Mike. We have 15 weeks if somebody's going to go to state. And We don't know if anybody's going to do that yet, but we know we've got some pretty good teams here in Northwest Indiana. Let's take a look at the Enigenberg Home Improvement Top 10, brought to us by Enigenberg Exteriors. And Mike, we'll start on the outside. I mean, Enigenberg does exteriors. They do the work on the outside of your home, so we're going to take a look at the outside, those on the outside looking in. We'll start with the Morton Governors. They were all the way up at number 5 to start the season, and they worked their way out of the top 10. I think they worked their way out of the outside looking in at one point, but now they're slowly starting to creep back up.
So, I mean, they kind of make their way back into this list. Obviously, we kind of mentioned how talented this team is, but haven't really been able to put it together for 4 quarters. Now, they played Calumet last week. They were able to do just that. This is kind of, I'd like to say, the easier part of their schedule. I want to say they're off this week, but they got some games coming up. Of course, they're conference games. They're still hoping to win, but they had kind of those early non-conference games where they were playing a lot of bigger opponents, like your Chesterton. They played Tippecanoe Valley, Byron Center, who came down from Michigan. A couple other teams that they played some teams close, but just could not really, again, they couldn't get over in the win column. And it was a nice showing from them over Calumet, still, again, more than the bigger school, but going off of their talent and looking at the rest of their schedule, they're probably going to win a couple more games down the road. They're going to find themselves in the bubble and maybe crack the top 10, and who knows. Again, when playoffs roll around, if you're playing proper football, good football, you're getting momentum, you're starting to gel together, especially with a team like that with all the talent. Who knows what could happen for more.
All right, well, we've got Michigan City on that list as well, the outside looking in. Tell me about the Wolves.
They're definitely a team that, as our TV 1 second here, there we go. Gotta support the Center Bank studio. But going back to Michigan City Wolves, like we said, this is a team. They're competitive in these games. I mean, this is a team that they play usually a pretty good 3 quarters. Then kind of when the 4th quarter comes around or whatever, they may start flat in the first few quarters. They're knocking on the door, and I still think this team is very, very, very talented. Being there at the game against Maryville, it was a team that they gave Maryville some fits, and they could compete in the Duneland. They're just coming up a few points short in some of these games. A 1-4 record is very, very misleading, I'd like to say, and they play a Lake Central team coming to Ames Field. I wouldn't be surprised if they get the win there. Again, Lake Central, we're going to talk about probably in a little bit, but Michigan City, they got all the talent in the world. 1-4 record, obviously that's not pretty, and that's not what you should see from a top 10 team, but they are very talented, and again, there's still a little bit of the season to go. I wouldn't be surprised if they scrap out a few more wins and stay on this list.
Yeah, Chesterton is next on the list, Mike, and they're in a similar situation to Michigan City.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan City, that was their only win of the season, Michigan City over Chesterton, but seeing how they fought without their quarterback against the Valparaiso team being at home, Valparaiso was at home, I should say, that was a lot. We saw a lot from them. A game that came down to the final play, and we know they could run the football. They're a competitive team, as this whole conference seems to be. There's been a lot of rotating doors, a lot of different teams we've mentioned within this countdown, but Chesterton, another one of those teams, they could run the football, and obviously, again, just what they did against Valparaiso, they deserve a mention there. It was a game, again, personally, saying this right here, I didn't think they'd be in. Again, a game without your quarterback, and that's going to still take some getting used to, I bet, but they just stuck to running the football, kept doing what they were doing, and they were just super, super close against Valparaiso, a very talented football team.
All right, the final team on the outside looking in is one of 4 GSSC teams that we're going to talk about. This one's the Westside Cougars.
Yeah, Westside's always been kind of knocking on the door there. They've been in the bubble. They were ranked at one point, but they play a really good Wheeler team coming up. Again, if this is a game where they could be competitive in, I don't know if it's going to be one that they might be favored, but nonetheless, this is a program that's always on the come up. I say this just about every episode, I'd like to say, but they're always consistent. They always have a winning record, it seems like, and kids keep coming out and wanting to play for the Westside Cougars, and they always have some athletes. We know they can run the football, and I'm excited. I'm ready to see. It's going to be our first real glimpse of them on the Region Sports Network this week, and they're going to play a great team in Wheeler, so if they can compete again, and who knows, they could scrap out with a win, they could definitely plenty of room to move up for them. Westside always a solid program, and they're showing it so far this season. All
right, now let's go to the inside, and those who are looking out, Mike, we'll start with Lake Central at 9, a newcomer.
Yeah, I'll see. They were at the 10th spot a little bit there. Yeah, they re-enter themselves here. It was a little bit of an interesting, again, them being playing LaPorte. That's not an easy bus ride, but it was LaPorte coming to Lake Central. They started that game pretty flat, LC did. They were losing at halftime, eventually bounced back in the second half, turned things around. Kudos to that. Now, they may not have the time. They're going to be on a long bus ride this week, going to Michigan City, a team we just mentioned. They can't start out flat like they did last week. They're going to have to play all 4 quarters. Michigan City's looking to do the same, but Lake Central enters our list back in at 10.
At number 9, it's the River Forest Ingots. Mike, tell us why they're there.
Yeah, they stay in this list, similar to kind of what I said about Chesterton, except River Forest was ranked last week, obviously ranked in it again. Playing a solid Griffith team, which done nothing but dominate. River Forest put up a pretty solid effort defensively and offensively, obviously giving them 34 points, but still a lot of good on the defensive side. They play a big game this week within their division in the GSSC. I still see them as the division favorites over there in the GSSC North. A very talented team. Mark Hidalgo's a great coach. They got a lot going on over there and a lot of talent on both sides of the ball.
The Andrean 59ers coming in next at number 8.
Tough loss for them. There's been a few of those so far this year. It was a game where we thought they had won, but again, this is still a very talented roster, a team that can compete with them all. And again, when playoff time comes around, again, they're only a 2A school. They're still playing 4As and 5As up here in the NCC, even some 3As, but nonetheless, they have a very talented roster that's only getting better. Obviously, they want that Hobart game back, as they would have want that Valparaiso game back a few weeks ago, but it's a tough pill to swallow, but they got to bounce back, and they're still a very talented roster, a team to look out for in the 2A.
At number 6, check that. At number 7, it's the Hobart Brickies.
Brickies just going up. It's been 3 straight wins so far for the Hobart Brickies, 3-0 in the conference. As I mentioned, getting a player back like Willie Shearer, again, doing things in the backfield as well as the defensive backfield. Quarterback play has been well over there. Alex Tatum, again, only a sophomore, young guy who, again, is only going to get better as the season goes on. And the defense, obviously, that's pretty solid. Holding Andrean, who may not be the best rushing team in the area, but still 22 rushing yards. That's not easy to do, as well as force a couple turnovers there in the passing game. Hobart, a dark horse now all of a sudden in the NCC. Hanover might still be the favorite, but after that tough start with Hobart, not many of us know what was going to happen with this Bricky team. Obviously, it's not an easy start to their schedule, but they showed us so far they compete in games and compete for this division title if they want really, really bad this year.
At number 6, it's the Wheeler Bearcats. We'll have them tomorrow for their homecoming with Westside. Tell us about the Bearcats.
Wheeler, a big win over Boone Grove last week. They're a fun team to watch. I'm super excited to watch them once again. Coming tomorrow, that's going to be a great game at Westside, but a lot of these teams up above them, it's kind of the usual suspects here. Wheeler's a team that they score points. They got great defense similar to River Forest, but kind of a step up, obviously. A lot of guys playing both ways. That Wheeler, I mean, they're a program that is growing seemingly every season. Nick Tessa doing a great job over there. Still only a 2A team, which is really, really hard to believe.
Another GSSC team. We've mentioned them a couple of times today. The Griffith Panthers. You got to give Phil Mason all the credit in the world. When he got there, it was kind of a ragtag situation. We didn't know what was going to happen, and give him one season to kind of air everything out. Comes back for season number 2, and he's got them playing like the Griffith Panthers, of yesteryear.
Yeah, it's again, getting a coach like that. Obviously, there's a reason why they did that. And yeah, it may not be a program walking into that it's going to be win, but it's going to take a little bit. But obviously, this is kind of the season where things are hoping to start to click with this program, and they have been so far through 5 games. Griffith is looking very solid so far. A team that, again, they can play defense and they can score points, and they play complementary football, and that's how you win games here in Northwest Indiana. I don't want to look too far ahead with Griffith and Wheeler Week 9. That could be for that side of the GSSC. Some big implications there. Of course, they got to get there first, but that's going to be a fun one down the line. Griffith and Wheeler as well. Both got to keep winning games to set that matchup up.
All right, let's talk some green. The Green Machine at number 4. It's the Valpo Vikings, Mike.
Valpo, a little bit of a scare last week. Again, a game I didn't expect them to be super close in, but nonetheless, they escaped that. They still find ways to win those games close, and Bill Marshall always has his guys. Again, it's a great culture over there, and of course, that might be a game you want to maybe win a little bit by a couple more points. It was an offense it was one of their worst offensive performances, I like to say, of the year, of that Valparaiso offense. A team that has scored points on points just about every week, but nonetheless, they get the win there, and they're going to stay in that spot. I still like their track record. And again, when postseason comes around, if they don't win the Doolin or whatever, they still play better football come October and November. And
then there were 3, Mike, the top 3 here, the usual suspects. At number 3, it's the Maryville Pirates.
We're going to see some familiar faces here. Maryville, we mentioned kind of on that game preview, a team that just kind of held on. They were outscored 12-0 in the second half. Luckily, they outscored Michigan City 14-0 in the first half. Maryville, they're going to play defense. They're going to run the football. They might need to add some more elements to their offense, I should say, if they want to maybe go a little bit farther. But this is still a very talented roster with a lot of talented pieces. They're going to scrape out some games, and they're obviously one of the Duneland's best and one of the area's best because they are just highly regarded. Obviously, they've been a staple on this top 10 list, and we don't expect much to change, but they can only get better, I'd like to say, from here.
All right, we're down to 2. You can guess who they are. We know who number 1 is, which means number 2 must be Hanover Central.
Of course, man. Hanover, it's they find ways to win in the NCC. It's their conference. They want to say to lose. They're the new kids on the block, but they're making their presence known as they always seem to do. A closer game against KV last week, as we mentioned, a little bit of a grinded-out game that we're not really familiar with Hanover Central, but obviously with this conference, kind of jumping, making this move, competition's a little bit up than how it was for them in years past, and they're finding out how to win games close now too. That's a big step coming in, of course, playoff time, which is just right around the corner before we know about it, a month from here. And they're up in 4A now. They're going to have to definitely win games close. They could also win by running the football. And Caden Durrett, an absolute star they have in the backfield for Hanover Central.
All right, Mike. The team we're about to talk about, they need no introduction. They've been on a roll like we haven't seen, I don't know, for a long time.
Yeah.
The team in red, they play out in South County. They're called the Bulldogs.
Crown Point Bulldogs, very talented roster. It's coming into this year. I know they lost a lot of pieces, but again, I think I've said this maybe on the wrap-up show last week with Andrew Mount, but is this team better than last year's? It's really hard to believe. They lose a couple pieces from the last year's squad, but they have done really nothing but dominate. I'd like to say they're averaging about 47 points a game, and I think they're only giving up, I want to say, I don't know why either of these two numbers, but I think it's either 16 or 12. But it's been, nonetheless, both two marks that are very impressive, especially what you see from them offensively. A lot of their starters, they barely make it to the second half. They barely finish out the second quarter. They hit you quick, and again, we're yet to find a team to kind of stand toe-to-toe with Crown Point, but they have just been a wagon so far, and they're hoping to keep that going the rest of the year.
Yeah, really impressive. I mean, every time it seems you look, it's 7-7 in the first quarter. You turn and look, it's 35-7 at half or something. I don't know. They just turn it on like nobody I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's only close because the game starts 0-0. So, I mean,
that's a good point.
Once the second quarter rolls around, it seems like they turn. I'd really like to see their second quarter margin because, I mean, maybe they've been a little bit maybe slow starters, but kind of once the second quarter rolls around, they absolutely hammer it on.
That's for sure. All right, we got one more segment here, everybody. The Region Sports Network has got 2 games for you tomorrow night. And before we go to break, Mike, anybody just jumped in, let's tell them what we're doing tomorrow night with the RSN Zone.
Yeah, so of course we got our 2 games like you mentioned. Crown Point Valparaiso will be a fun one, and West Side as well as at Wheeler. And then the RSN Zone, yes, that's going to be a kind of a play on the NFL Red Zone they got going on there. Myself and Michael Bradner will be around. We'll kind of course, we'll start the stream around 6:15-ish, 6 o'clock, and kind of, recap the games, a little bit of a tech tailgate show, kickoff show like we usually do. And kind of once kickoff goes around, it's kind of, hey, we're watching the game in real time. We're keeping up just like you guys, kind of talking shop, talking the games and kind of giving scoreboard updates, as well as hopefully playing some highlights for you guys on that Friday night. And as the games kind of end, first we'll do our kind of halftime show, kind of talk about what we're seeing from these games, just recapping all the games throughout the night. And as the night ends, we'll kind of recap it with you guys, do a little wrap-up show there. But, yeah, we're kind of sitting there with you guys, kind of, again, like an NFL Red Zone, kind of what they do over there where they kind of recap every game and see what kind of happens. But we're super excited for that. First time we're really doing that all year, more of an extended studio show. It's going to be kind of that your typical, again, a game stream length. I like to say, you're sitting about 3-4 hours, so we're going to be here all night kind of recapping the games. Myself and Michael Bradner are going to be a fun one. Again, RSN Zone, our season debut tomorrow. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that, Mike. Again, the RSN Zone is what we're calling it, and we'll see how it goes. So, all right, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll have the final segment. We'll preview a handful of tomorrow night's games here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Have you checked out Send to Your Bank's student checking account? This no-fee checking account is perfect for students and teens ages 14 to 24 and comes with all the features you need to succeed, such as a debit card, digital banking, and automatic deposit. Send to Your Bank can help you start establishing good spending habits today for your better tomorrow. For more information, visit Centier.com/student-checking or visit your local branch. If you are under the age of 18, your parent or guardian must also sign on the Centier student checking account. At the age of 25, your account will automatically convert to the Centier checking account. You must deposit $25 to open this account. This account is not eligible for overdraft advantage. Member FDIC.
Four Seasons Mechanical proudly serves Northwest Indiana, providing quality, reasonably priced, reliable service. With a quality and comfort guarantee, the professionals at Four Seasons Mechanical offer a wide range of services in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Whether it's residential or commercial, Four Seasons Mechanical is there 24/7. To find out more, the website is fourseasonsmechanical.com or give them a call at 219-756-7020. Four Seasons Mechanical, your indoor air quality specialist.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craft Workers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I have received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craft Workers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
Flip the switch, a light turns on. Press the button, machines and instruments come to life. Touch the screen, communicate with the world. Simple tasks, guaranteed results, every second of every day. That's the power of power. And that's the power brought to you by the Nika Contractors and Electrical Workers of Local 531.
We love home internet from T-Mobile. Oh, now Mesh boosts Wi-Fi all over your home. Taking a class in your attic, that dead spot is gone. Stream ballet in your man cave, learn to paint on your lawn.
He's glorious.
And now on the road, you can take T-Mobile Wi-Fi with you. Hey, stay connected and watch what you'll do.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's the Region Sports Network here in the Centier Bank Studios. This is Region Football Weekly. A lot going on this week. We're going to preview a few games for you from tomorrow night, for a few tomorrow night's games, I should say. But a couple things to mention before that, Mike. Next week, we're doing something fun. Next Thursday, we're going to be Region Sports on the road. We're going to be up at Whiting doing our Region Football show. From Whiting High School, and we're taking a bunch of Better Beef of Indiana hamburgers and stuff up there, and we're going to have a feast with the team.
Yeah, I'll be sure to come hungry. That's going to be a fun one, obviously. Like going to Whiting, again, like I kind of said last week, it's been a while for me. You mentioned Whiting's one of your just favorite spots. I know you're an avid bike rider as well, but obviously a fun spot over there, a fun football field. One of my biggest memories, again, the train tracks right by the field, so there's a couple trains every now and then coming through the game, and of course, right on the lake, but again, much appreciative of the hospitality over there, and it's going to be a fun event nonetheless.
Yep, and we'll have all that for you live. It'll be this version of the show. It'll just be there at Whiting, and may do a couple of extra things as well while we're there, talk to some of the kids, the coaches, etc. Mike, something else, we've mentioned the RSN Zone for tomorrow. One thing we want to make clear is we don't want you watching that rather than a game stream. We'd like you to do both, kind of, I guess what we're saying is, watch Mike and Michael right here on this, and then get yourself the YouTube app and get your big 50, 60, 70-inch TV geared up with one of our games there, and that way you can kind of have some fun with both. Because the more I'm not a red zone watcher, and Mike keeps telling me about it, and it sounds really cool. I think it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. But again, we don't want to take it away from the game streams themselves, so we just ask you to be a little bit innovative and try to find a way to do both for us.
Sure, bust out that old laptop you might have stored up somewhere, or get a projector, or get something going. But yeah, it's obviously, of course, if not, you could flip between the two. That'd always be fun. But if you can, pop up in your lazy boy and get both screens out and let's have some fun tomorrow.
All right, Mike, let's get down to the meat of the matter for this week's games here. We'll start at beautiful Ames Field in Michigan City. The number 10 Indians of Lake Central taking on the Wolves of Michigan City. They're on the outside trying to get in.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this game, and who's going to play a good 4 quarters? That's really it. Who's going to play a solid 48 minutes of football. These are 2 quarterbacks that are still in their first year under center, so a little bit of a learning curve on both sides, but we're kind of getting in, again, the latter half of the regular season. It's kind of, okay, you're young, but we're starting to, hopefully these things kind of start to crystallize and materialize, and you're getting ready to go, and you're going to be our guy come next year, too. Both these guys are juniors, Cam Reddick and Trinidad Hart of Michigan City and Cam Reddick of Lake Central. But as I mentioned, both teams, we saw Lake Central last week against the LaPorte team that is still looking to find their footing, still trying to get in the win column. But LaPorte, they won that first half, taking a long bus ride to the burial grounds of Lake Central, and LC came out flat. And Michigan City, they are a very talented team, as I mentioned, but they have yet really to put it all together for a good 4 quarters. Again, what we saw last week, they played a great second half, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot, being down 14-0 against a Maryville team that could play defense and run the football. They could milk that clock as well. That's going to be one to look out for. Michigan City, again, not an easy place to play. Lake Central, obviously the team ranked in our top 10 poll. That's not an easy bus ride, especially coming from, again, more far south than where we're at right now. That's not easy to do. Again, who's going to play a proper 48 minutes of football and get out of there with the win? That's a big one there for the Doona.
All right, Mike, Lake Central comes in as the favorite only because they're ranked in the top 10 and City's on the outside looking in right now. But then again, you got the travel and the home field and all of that stuff going on there. So that kind of levels things out. So Indiana, Better Beef of Indiana wants to know. They want you to tell us what will be the difference in this game. Give us the meat of the matter here. What's Michigan City going to do if they're going to upset the Lake Central Indians tomorrow night?
Obviously, I think they have to start out pretty quick if they can't play maybe a proper 4 quarters. I think you have to use being home, walking out from your football field. Obviously, maybe not like that in Michigan City where you have to travel a little bit to Ames Field, but nonetheless, you have to use that to your advantage. Not an easy place to play, and when you get a team that's coming from very far out, it's a long bus ride, you have to hit them quick. So I'd imagine Michigan City, they like to throw the football as much as run it. I wouldn't be surprised if they test those defensive backs early, try and take some shots down the field, make some big chunk plays, and get on the scoreboard early. But I think mainly looking at this, I like this quarterback matchup. What quarterback is going to continue to grow this time around? I like Michigan City's defense in that department, so that's going to might be a tougher task for Cam Reddick of Lake Central. But we're still looking for these quarterbacks. Cam Reddick had a great game last week against LaPorte, had a 60-yard rushing touchdown. That was one of our electrifying plays. But it's what quarterback's going to grow up. These are 2 offenses still. Again, a lot of turnover over on that side of the ball for both sides. A lot of guys doing some things at the next level. And this is a game that is typically decided by a few points. If you remember last year, that absolute thriller at the burial grounds, I was on the call for that one. That game was a game-winning touchdown rush from Tyler Bush of Michigan City. And that was a game that, again, a few plays. Again, if you get a great start in the first quarter like Michigan City might need against a Lake Central team that's on a long bus ride, that might hold up come the 4th quarter. But it's, again, you have to play to your strengths. For Michigan City being at home, playing a team that started out flat last week at home against the LaPorte squad, I think City's going to have to do that because we haven't really seen a full, proper football game from them quite yet.
And that's the meat of the matter for Lake Central and Michigan City. Brought to you by Better Beef of Indiana. Mike, next game to look at in the GSSC, and we keep talking about it, they're playing great football in the GSSC, and this looks like it could be another excellent and outstanding game here. Boone Grove going to the Swamp to take on the number 9 Ingots.
I'd say the 2 best in their respective division. Obviously, the GSSC, a conference of 9 teams. You have 5 in the South and 4 in the North, and these 2 teams are in the North, and I'd like to say they're the 2 favorites. This game has a lot of implications for that side of the conference, and it's going to be a good one. This is a game that Boone won 28-6 last year, but as we saw, River Forest, very competitive squad, a senior quarterback, and Aiden Silver that's just about seen it all, as well as a young but talented defense. Going to be a great one over there.
All right, Mike, West Side and Wheeler, another GSSC game. We'll have this one here on the Region Sports Network tomorrow night. It's homecoming at Wheeler. Tell me about this one.
Always a fun night. It's homecoming, but I think Wheeler, again, as great as you have been, the homecoming, those are fun events, senior night as well, but football is a game about routine, and homecoming can kind of throw you off a little bit. West Side, this could be a trap game for Wheeler, because Wheeler We know they can do great things offensively as well as defensively. West Side, I don't want to call them one-dimensional offense. They can throw the football, but they pride themselves on running the ball. Giuseppe Moore is their quarterback over there at West Side. He, I want to say, is third or fourth in the area in rushing yards, so he's a true threat in the backfield. You got to key on him. I know Wheeler's got a great defensive front, but West Side, if they can control the clock, and again, this is a game where, again, your routine's thrown off if you're Wheeler. It's a fun but a long night and a lot of things going on over there at Wheeler High School. You can't fall behind on the scoreboard on West Side. We know they can control the clock, especially if they're not throwing the ball that much.
All right, one more game to look at, Mike. It's the one that a lot of people are waiting to hear about. It's not often you get matchups like this with two highly ranked state teams in their respective classes, and that's what we have in the Duneland tomorrow night at Viking Field. We had one of these similar earlier with Crown Point. They played Maryville. Not much of a game in that one. We're hoping tomorrow. We're hoping. I know Crown Point's thinking otherwise, but we're like Valpo. We're hoping for a close ball game. I don't care who wins it. I want to see Valpo go to Crown Point and Crown Point go to Valpo, and maybe some overtime or something tomorrow. And that's what I want to ask you, Mike. Here, Crown Point's blown everybody off the table here so far. How does a team like Valpo do what Maryville couldn't do? Keep this one close and win it in the end.
Yeah, I mean, Valparaiso, their offense, I think, has to step up this week. 177 total yards of offense against Chesterton last week. That is not going to cut it against a Crown Point defense that is absolutely stifling. But we saw a low-scoring game between these two teams last year, 19-14, in favor of the Bulldogs. Valparaiso, I think, kind of similar to like what I said with West Side and Wheeler. You have to kind of control the clock, but I think you also have to force turnovers. This is a Crown Point offense that has been very efficient with the football. We could read some stats here. Maybe you can talk about the meat of the matter later down the line, but this is Crown Point has played some perfect football so far. Valparaiso, I think they have the formula to, again, make this a lower scoring game, kind of keep the Crown Point offense off the field because they have been just about perfect so far.
Yeah, now, speaking of the meat of the matter, what I want to ask is not so much related to this game in particular, Mike, but give me the meat of the matter, courtesy of Better Beef of Indiana, by the way, on why Crown Point is playing so well. What are they doing specifically that's allowing them to suddenly, I mean the last couple of years, just continue to separate themselves from everybody on their schedule? There's really nobody, quite a while that's played them close. So what's the difference? What's the meat of the matter with this team?
I mean, just starting with this season, I'd like to say, of course, we can talk about coaching, and their coaching staff is fantastic, but they've instilled in these kids that, they play great football. We start with their offense. Looking here, Crown Point has 3 turnovers on the year. Noah Ehrlich, 16 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. Some of those turnovers were from their backups that come into the game later in the game. So this is a team that protects the football, and they do their job when their offense is on the field. And that's what football comes down to. And then their defense, again, they've had a cycle of just players over these past few seasons. The linebacker position alone, Will Clark now to Trevor Gibbs, who's a fantastic middle linebacker. You got playmakers on the defensive side that could force turnovers, but at least get the job done, get your offense on the field. And you want to get your offense back on the field, who all they've done is score points. I want to say, looking at these first couple games, I think they've scored at least, I'd say, 28 plus in the first half every single game. And again, they get to that 35-point mark, they got the game won. It's as simple as that. They get to that mark and they play great football, even if it's just for a half. They get their starters out, and it's a rinse and repeat so far. And again, Valparaiso, you have the formula. You need to chew the clock. You need to keep that offense off the field, keep that defense that is still very solid for Crown Point, keep them a little tired, and you got to try to milk the clock and limit the opportunities for Crown Point. But you got to protect the football. And Crown Point, they also get forced turnovers as well, and they barely turn the ball over. And I think it all starts with the coaching staff. Again, Coach Buzz, as well as all the guys that have joined him and, again, instilled in these kids to play good football, play Crown Point football, and they're becoming the new standard here in Northwest Indiana.
Yeah, it really is amazing. I've been following high school football since I was 7 years old. That's a long time, and teams have come and gone. They've come out of nowhere. But what this Crown Point team is doing at the 6A level, it's one thing at 2, 3, or 4A. That's tough enough. In the Duneland Conference at 6A, to go from where they were, which was a middle-of-the-pack program at best for a number of years.
5A, too.
Yeah, right. And then bang, Craig Bazia is hired. and look what he's done. It's a lot of fun as a fan, of region football to see a team like that in our area. It doesn't necessarily make for the best, games on Friday night when it's, Maryville, Crown Point, and we want a massive audience for that and a close game down to the wire, and Crown Point just smokes them off the, right off the field. Again, I'd like to see the games a little closer, but that's just the way it is. It says an awful lot about just how much this Crown Point team, how much ground they've covered to go from where they were, say, 4 years ago to where they are now. That doesn't happen often. It almost seems to the point. It's like it seems like they've been good for longer than 2 or 3 years. Is I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah, this exponential growth has been truly impressive. And again, I don't want to say like they know they're good, but they come in every Friday and they take care of business. And again, like you said, it seems like this is a team that has been known for a while. And yes, the Crown Point was a team that was in the middle of the pack in a lower class, and now all of a sudden things are different over there, and they're playing good football. And again, Valpo Rage is hoping to kind of rain on their parade. Going to be a fun one there nonetheless. We're hoping for a better one, hoping for a close game. I'm kind of in the same shoes as you are. But two of the DAC's best, both 3-0 as well in the Duneland. This could be for the Duneland Championship, I'd say.
Yeah, it could very well. I would think it is, actually. Yeah, that's most likely what it's going to come down to. So, all right, we're going to have all that for you. We've got Valpo and Crown Point tomorrow from Viking Field. We're going to be live out there for the entire game. We'll also be in Valpo, just outside of the city limits in Union Township for the West Side Wheeler game. So we're all things Valpo tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
And then, of course, we'll be rolling from the studio all night long with the RSN Zone, which includes, is that going to include the Tech Tailgate then, or is that coming first? Exactly how are we doing that?
We'll figure something out.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, tune back in tomorrow, late afternoon, early evening. We're going to be rolling until, probably close to 11 o'clock tomorrow. So a full night of football. That's what happens when you get in mid-season, Mike. There's a lot to talk about.
Definitely. And we're happy to share it all with you guys. You guys make this all fun. Week 6, as crazy as it sounds, there's always something to talk about here on the Region Sports Network.
All right, that's going to do it for the Week 6 edition of Region Football Weekly. For Mike Dewan and for Zach Zanelli, I'm Chris Ramirez. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been a production of the Region Sports Network.